Hello everyone, my name's Ozimitsu and today I want to talk about Eviolite Pokémon.
Oh my god, Ozzy, you've already done this list. Are you running out of ideas already?
No, the video I did just under a year ago was of very bad quality and some of the choices were questionable. Kicking off the list at number 10 is Dusclops. Number 8, Roselia. Number 7, Scyther. I'd like to think with the more research I've done on Pokemon, I'm a little bit more knowledgeable than I was about 10 months ago. Don't get me wrong, I'm still an idiot, but you know, that doesn't stop me from making videos about things within the franchise that really intrigue me. Hence why I have an entire series dedicated to comparing an unevolved Pokemon with Eviolite with its evolutionary counterpart. If you wanted to check that series out, click on the iCard on the top right hand corner of the screen, which will take you to the entire playlist. This also works on mobile devices provided you're watching from the official YouTube application. If not, the link to the playlist has been provided in the description below for your convenience. Generation 5, as you may or may not know, is my favourite generation. And it introduced many great things to the franchise, one of them being the held item Eviolite. Eviolite essentially can be held by a Pokemon that is capable of evolving to buff both their defenses by 50%, so this has given some Pokemon the ability to outshine their evolved forms, as well as becoming a little bit more relevant in competitive play. It's also quite an interesting gimmick, considering we're always told
but evolution's the solution if you're gonna.
But Eviolite has changed that. If you want to keep your awkward middle stage or even some cases third stage evolution Pokemon unevolved, you can do that still, whilst kicking some grass. Anyway, today I'm going to count down what I think are the best 10 Eviolite users. Just a disclaimer that this list is in no way a definitive list of the best Eviolite users, but who I think benefit most from Eviolite, taking into account their base stats, their move pool, and if they really benefit from the added buff to their defenses, as well as looking at what kind of role they can play within your team. So with that all out the way, let's get on with the list. At number 10 we have Scyther. Now it isn't too impressive with Eviolite compared to the others on this list, but I still feel like it deserved a spot on this list. It being a bug flying type isn't the best typing for an Eviolite user, especially considering it has a 4 times weakness to rock, which means entry hazards like Stealth Rock will really harm it. However, getting access to Roost, which temporarily enables Scyther to become a pure bug type for one turn, can be used pretty strategically. It having a base 80 defense and special defense stat means it is a pretty bulky Pokemon, which gets even better with Eviolite. The only thing letting Scyther down, which is why it's only at number 10, is whilst it has good potential with its stats, the move pool it gets access to doesn't really help it out. In my opinion, the main purpose of Eviolite is to provide defensive bulk so the user can adapt to the role of a support Pokemon. Scyther can't really do that despite having a lot of potential, however its abilities do work pretty well for it. For example, Technician boosting the power of moves with a base power of less than or equal to 60, so a Technician stat boosted Aerial Ace can go down really well, coupled with moves like U-turn in an attempt to fish out what your opponent is going to go for next. Again, it's pretty low on this list because in my opinion Sizzle outshines Scyther with its bug steel typing, getting access to a better move pool, as well as being capable of mega evolving, obliterating anything that gets in its way with a Technician stat boosted Bullet Punch. I've spoken about these two as part of my series, which you can check out by clicking on the iCard for a bit more in-depth analysis of the two. Number 9, Gligar. Gligar is a very underrated and overlooked Pokemon, mainly because its evolutionary counterpart Gliscor does really well in competitive play with its Poison Heal ability, coupled with the option to hold a Toxicole for consistent recovery. However, Gligar does have a lot of potential. The ground flying typing is pretty handy as it grants it both a ground and electric immunity. With a base physical defense stat of 105 and a special defense stat of 65, you can max out its HP and special defense with a bit of physical defense investment to really maximize its bulk. Considering Gliscor's defenses aren't that much higher, it can most definitely outshine Gliscor in that department. Of course, one of the main things letting it down is it doesn't get access to Poison Heal as an ability, but wouldn't be able to hold an item anyway due to sacrificing the item slot and holding Eviolite. Also, the moveset it gets access to are limited to mainly attacking moves. One of the main sets I've seen Eviolite Gligar users run are Roost, Substitute, Swords Dance and Baton Pass. The idea is to use that bulk to ensure your substitute won't fade so easily, set up a Swords Dance and pass on those stats to another user. This can work really well with a Hypercut ability, meaning its stats cannot be lowered, so Pokemon with Intimidate don't scare it. Of course, Pokemon like Scolipede do this better with its speed boost ability. Number 8, Doublade. The little brother of Aegislash is pretty bulky defensively. Sure, its special defense sucks, but you can use it as a physical wall. It having so many resistances really help it out, especially as an Eviolite user. It also has a pretty nice ability No Guard, meaning you'll never miss an attack. It does also however mean your opponent's attacks will never miss. It'll be nice knowing you can never miss a toxic though, so you can stall as much as you like. It also gets access to Reflect to double your team's physical defenses. It would be nice if you got access to Light Screen too, so you can play the role of a dual screener, but you can't have everything, can you? But also, if you did want a dual screener, I feel like a Trick Room Bronzong would do a better job anyway. But Doublade is still able to hit hard with 110 base attack stat, so it can be quite threatening on the field. The main reason it's not as high on this list is because Aegislash's stance change ability really help it out both offensively and defensively, where when it's in its shield form it is better defensively, and when it's in its blade form it is better offensively, switching its base stats respectively. Number 7, Vigoroth. Originally I didn't actually place Vigoroth on this list I made a year ago, and honestly I was wrong not to.
I was wrong.
Oh, can I hear that again?
I'm sorry?
No. The second part.
I was wrong.
This little guy can be used really well with Eviolite. Its defenses, although mediocre, can be pretty bulky with the extra buff Eviolite provides. Not only this, it can be viewed as better than its evolved form Slaking, who is absolutely crippled with its awful Truant ability. At least with Durant you can use entrainment, but you can't with Slaking. Vigoroth gets access to Vital Spirit, which prevents sleep. The only thing that lets Vigoroth down however is that it doesn't get any recovery move and is unable to use rest because of its Vital Spirit ability, so it's placed pretty low on this list. At number 6, I've placed Clefairy on the list, and not just because it's one of my favourite Pokemon. Don't get me wrong, I think Clefable is way better competitively as it's still very specially defensive with a superior HP stat, as well as still being able to hit hard. I personally really like using Clefable as a Trick Room sweeper with Life Orb, where it doesn't take any damage due to its Magic Guard ability. Anyway, that doesn't mean Clefairy can't hold its own. In fact, it makes a perfect Eviolite user. 2 of its abilities are very defensive, one of them being Magic Guard, meaning it doesn't take any damage from weather conditions like Sandstorm or any entry hazards, or from burn or poison, which is pretty handy. However, if you wanted to run an Eviolite Clefairy, I feel like Friend Guard would be a better option. Like I've mentioned, the purpose of Eviolite is to provide an added bulk and to maximise the efficiency of this bulk to be a support Pokemon. So moves like Safeguard, Helping Hand, Heal Pulse or setting up screens will ensure your offensive Pokemon can benefit too. Friend Guard essentially reduces damage done to your ally by 25%, which works well for an Eviolite user, and if you're worried about being Toxic Stalled, you can run Safeguard to protect yourself. Clefairy also gets access to moves like Encore, which you can use to lock your opponent into certain moves that they wouldn't want to repeat, like Protect. I have personally had a lot of success with a Follow Me set where I allow my ally to set up a few Calm Minds. Clefairy takes all the damage, uses Moonlight to recover, whilst my Calm Minding ally protects and repeat. And this personal experience and the amount of success I've had with it, I just couldn't resist but putting Clefairy on the list. But of course it is outshined by Clefable competitively, which is why I could only place it at number 6 on the list. Number 5, Tangler. Tangler is such an underrated Pokemon, and the best thing to ever happen to it was Tangrowth.
Ozzy, weren't you just talking about Tangler? So how does it getting an evolution benefit it?
Well, now it can use Eviolite. Admittedly, its special defense sucks, and even with Eviolite, a super effective special move will be an easy 2-hit KO. However, that doesn't change the fact that this thing can take a physical hit after hit. It gets access to Rage Powder, which is pretty handy. It's basically the bug type version of Follow Me, where all attacks are directed towards that user. Similarly with Clefairy, if you're predicting a physical move, allow Tangler to eat those hits for breakfast. I personally have had a lot of success with Substitute and Elite Seed combo. It's a bit strange that a grass type can be so bulky considering it has so many weaknesses, but Tangler really shows it can be such a tank. It would work well in a Sun team with its ability Chlorophyll, which doubles its speed in sunlight, but Leaf Guard is also a pretty good option because it prevents status problems whilst in sunlight. So both abilities are pretty good. Regenerator is a good ability, but because Tangler's HP stat isn't that good, I don't think it'll benefit from being withdrawn, losing that bit of momentum just for a bit of HP recovery. Tangrowth on the other hand would make use of this ability far better. But yeah, Tangler is such a great Eviolite user, which is why it's at number 5 on this list. Number 4, Murkrow! Sorry, I just can't resist. Ever since I've seen that in the anime, I just can't. Anyway, the main reason I think Murkrow is a good Eviolite user is because its hidden ability Prankster gives priority to non-attacking moves. Its stats at first glimpse don't look very impressive, and you may think you may as well evolve it for an impressive increase to its offensive stats. However, upon evolving, it loses its Prankster ability for Moxie, which to be fair does benefit Honchkrow, but that doesn't mean the little Dark Crow can't hold its own in battle, especially with the added bulk with Eviolite and it having a solid Dark Flying typing, granting it a ground and psychic immunity. It's kind of like a Mandibuzz, but better. It gets access to moves like Quash to make one of your opponents go last, which works really well in doubles, as well as Tailwind, Perisong, Taunt, and Haze to reset any stat changes. Perfect moves for a support Pokemon. I do intend on doing a full in-depth analysis of Eviolite Murkrow within my Evolution Solution series, so watch this space. Number 3, Porygon 2. I've already spoken about how great Porygon 2 and Z are, but Porygon 2 is fantastic with Eviolite. It is arguably one of the best Eviolite users, mainly due to its wide move pool, as well as getting access to recover to really stall out a battle. Not only this, its abilities really complement the added bulk with Eviolite. It gets download, trace, and analytic as a hidden ability. In my opinion, analytic is its best ability, as more than likely you won't be investing any speed with this little guy. Even though a base 60 speed stat isn't too bad, but it'll most likely get outsped by a lot. But analytic boosts the power of moves if the Pokemon with the said ability goes last, which is pretty handy. Couple that with a charge beam, you have some really nice bulk as well as some momentum to set up while still dealing damage on your opponent. Porygon 2 has an amazing defensive ability in trace, allowing it to use the foe's ability against it. It has a great 85/90/95 bulk that is further augmented by Eviolite. Using Eviolite is a double-edged sword, however, as it means that Porygon 2 lacks the passive recovery of leftovers. It also lacks strong bulk without its Eviolite, meaning that it's severely crippled by losing it via knockoff. Regardless, Porygon 2 has access to a decent stab move and tri-attack and decent coverage options such as Ice Beam and Thunderbolt. It also has a great supportive move pool with access to Thunder Wave, Toxic and Recover, a reliable recovery move that allows Porygon 2 to stay healthy throughout the match. Porygon 2's typing is decent defensively due to only having one weakness, albeit a common one, but it isn't amazing due to its lack of resistances, only being immune to Ghost. Porygon 2 is very susceptible to status elements and is very setup fodder for bulky sweepers such as Snorlax, but even still you cannot deny how great this little guy can be, which is why it's at number 3 on this list. Number 2, Dusclops.
How do I even begin to explain?
Dusclops. Even without Eviolite, this guy has a base 130 in both its defenses, which is already pretty darn respectable. Even a super effective knockoff doesn't cripple it completely. The main reason I placed Dusclops at number 2 is because it outshines its evolutionary counterpart in the bulk department. And under Trick Room, it can do some pretty scary stuff. I can see Dusclops working well with the Trick Room, Nightshade and Will-O-Wisp set, and you can use the last move slot on Pain Split. I will say the one thing letting it down, which in my opinion has made it not worthy of the number 1 spot, is its lack of access to recovery moves. The only move that does this to an extent is Pain Split, and the other being Rest. However, because you're already holding Eviolite, you can't give it a Chesto Berry, so that's one big sacrifice you'd have to evaluate when opting for Dusclops. Not only this, Pokemon like Ninetales or anyone with access to moves like Swords Dance and Nasty Plot are given the opportunity to set up due to Dusclops' lack of offensive capability. Of course, in doubles, it is a fantastic support Pokemon, burning physical attackers, and if you're running a slow team, Trick Room can go down really well, provided you have a strategy revolving around that. All in all, Dusclops makes use of the Eviolite really well, which is why it's so deserving of the number 2 spot. At number 1, we have Chauncey. With a fantastic hit point stat as well as being naturally specially defensive, Chauncey is one of, if not the best defensive walls in OU. And with Eviolite, that bulk gets even better, ensuring it can take some physical moves too. It being weak to fighting is a letdown, seeing as most fighting type moves are physical. However, Chauncey can really hold its own in battle. Generation 5 with the introduction of Eviolite is quite possibly the best thing that happened to Chauncey, and quite possibly the worst thing that ever happened to Blissey. The main reason I've placed it at number 1 on this list is because it outclasses Blissey on the defensive front, while still getting access to moves like Seismic Toss for nice consistent damage. However, one of the things letting Chauncey down, similarly to most Eviolite users, is her susceptibility to taunt, as well as being crippled if hit by knockoff or trick. She's basically rendered useless at this point. Not only this, just because Chauncey is incredibly bulky, it's not to say Chauncey can do everything Blissey can. Blissey's superior HP stat, coupled with the freedom to hold leftovers, allows for Blissey to still become a decent wall, whilst getting access to a plethora of moves like Flamethrower and Ice Beam for nice coverage. Furthermore, Blissey can heal more HP with Soft Boil due to a superior hit point stat. All in all, Chauncey makes a fantastic Eviolite user, and even with the susceptibility to taunt, the sacrifice in my opinion is totally worth it. It also makes a fantastic support Pokemon due to getting access to moves like Charm to lower your foe's physical attack, Heal Pulse to recover your ally's health, as well as being able to set up Light Screen. Equally, its abilities like Healer have a good chance to heal your ally of any status conditions, as well as getting access to Natural Cure, meaning it can get rid of any status conditions upon switching out. This is very useful considering a Poison Chauncey can easily be shut down. Well, there you have it. Those are in my opinion the top 10 best Eviolite users. Did you agree with my list? Did you disagree? Were there any Pokemon you would have placed on the list? Ensure to leave a comment, let me know, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But if you did enjoy this video, please give this video a thumbs up, as that'll really help me out, as well as subscribing so you never miss a video from me. Follow me on all my social media platforms, the link to them will be in the description below. And if this video has whet your appetite for more similar videos on this topic, click on the iCard which will take you to the first episode of my Evolution Solution series on the top right hand corner of the screen. Alternatively, the entire playlist has been linked in the description below for your convenience. But thank you so much for watching. Until next time, see ya!